The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madeir, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
Welcome back to part 2 of my interview on the Forever Fab podcast. Nora, we've been talking about sustainability and corporate social responsibility, but what about us as individuals? In what ways can we better engage ourselves in CSR type activities as individuals? What are some of the small steps that we may take daily, weekly, whatever, and to take now to help create a larger and perhaps more impactful effect later?
So we create content with Who Cares. So we have guides we made one on, we have actually a trilogy. So we had Dress Like You Care. We had Eat Like You Care,
Love
food.
it.
And now we're working on Live Like You Care, which will be the last piece, and it will be on travel and consumption as a whole, and a lot on hospitality, etc. But we also have a program for companies that we work on EI, so EI principles, how to integrate them into your company. And then we have training, which is really, really well welcomed by companies and employees, and they can speak to anyone, but they can also speak whether you're not in a company. We can host these workshops for your friends and groups and in conventions and conferences. And there's always very well appreciated because it's the process of remembering. And we use a bunch of different tools. I've been very fortunate to speak to different thinkers and even neuroscientists, and I've created a program around the EI tools that I call them the tools. And we have this cue cards in some of the exercises, and we delve into different things like time. They've been designed and created by this beautiful illustrator, Agnieszka. We have one on, which I love, on critical thinking. You can see this one. It has different thinkers like Socrates. And so because we're entering a world where obviously if you are spending a lot of time in front of the computer and you are, introduced with deep fakes and you're wondering like, is this true? Is this not true? So we need to also enhance not only our empathy, but also our critical thinking. Like more and more, there's little tools that we give to help people to create that. Like, is this true? Is this right? And then we have other archetypes that we speak of. We have one that's like the Sabia, the woman who knows.
Yes. Very powerful.
Yes, very powerful. An archetype about in society, in most of our societies throughout history, the knowledgeable woman was not always well perceived. I mean, this goes way back in time.
Centuries.
Exactly. Or even in the Genesis, like the perception of knowledge and the tree of knowledge, and Eve and Lilith, the first wife of Adam, apparently. So the knowledge of a woman, and to give it space for it to be heard and not judged and not belittled, is also something that we try to explore, because that also means being environmentally intelligent. So we give space to all these indigenous principles that we love, but we also give space to, there's a lot of poetry, and there's also even some very specific science. We talk about the senses, like proprioceptive system, like what does it mean to be connected to the soil? We talk about animals. Yeah, so that's like the way to answer this question would be like, if you're interested or you're curious about the EI principles, you can have this training, which is wonderful and playful and super creative. I wanted it to be, I think creativity is going to have a revival. And
yes.
I wanted the training to reflect that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have drawing sessions, we have exchanges, we have imagination sessions. We can even we have storytelling sessions that allow people to reconnect with their environmental intelligence and to enhance it. And so, yeah, that would be the first thing that I would recommend. But then within some of the things that we tell people is like, for example, in my desk, I always have flowers.
Yes.
I have little things that remind me of nature that means something. Like I found a tree branch on the ground one time on one of my walk from a tree that I love. I call her a grandmother.
Yes.
So I have this branch of this tree that I love that I see most mornings because I do the same walk every day.
Yes.
And yes, it's just those little things that remind you that you are a being of nature. You're not a homo technology. Like, we're entering, like, we talk about homo sapiens, but
yes,
we're not, I don't think it's wonderful to have technology. Don't get me wrong. I'm never here to diss technology. I think advancement in technology are wonderful things, that we have wonderful tools.
Yes.
But we also need to remember all the wonderful nature and flowers and birds and, the animal kingdom I'm fascinated by the animal kingdom. I'm like on Instagram, one of my recent things is to just repost beautiful imagery of all kinds of animals. I love the wolf. A lot of the archetypes that we use in the cards, actually.
Yes.
The whales. I mean, I've been attached to whales for so many years since I was
incredible.
A kid. I've always felt, and I realized, I just learned somehow that they were one of the few species that go through menopause.
What?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, I've been researching that, and I had this whole. Somebody had mentioned that. I mean, talking about health, I know menopause is a big topic these days, but I thought it was very interesting because apparently, out of those three species, including women, human beings,
humans, yes,
apparently is because if we were to continue being able to bear children, we may, with age, lose life. And so we are given away that task so that we can share our knowledge.
Interesting. So there's a reason for the madness.
Right? And then in China, apparently menopause is called second spring.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I thought it was
It's so much more respectful also.
But also it's very interesting because again, it is true. Like it is a time for us to become sabiyas, women of knowledge who can share and be heard, like a abuela, grandmother, and it's true. The knowledge you get from a grandmother, you don't get from a mother because the mother is doing something else. She has different tasks and priorities. Whereas the grandmother, she's here to bestow a certain level of wisdom. And I think that's what women are called to do, particularly today. That's why, if we're speaking about beauty, I remember being younger and saying, I can't wait to be an old lady. Like, because people are going to be like, they're going to listen to me. They're going to be curious to know what my story was. Like, I'm like a book. I'm like a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're called to do.
So if I were to pull one of these cards, let's say I pull the time card, right? What would I do with it? On the front, it says time and has this image. And on the back, is there a set of instructions that I would have to do so that I could become more engaged?
Yes.
Okay.
So every card is meant to awaken a question within you and for you to find an answer based on that. So how do you perceive time? What is the sense of time? Like time is a construct, and particularly now we've bended time. We've changed time.
Yes.
Apparently I was also reading that because of the environment as we know today, the world clock has moved like one tiny fraction of a second, which is changing our whole system even.
Interesting.
Or like the spin of the earth has shifted in some way. So I think every card is here to say, because nothing is static. Obviously, the planet that we knew 50 years ago is not the one that we know today.
Clearly.
So we need to reconnect, readapt, align, tweak, probably modify some things, reprioritize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now if we're doing the cards and we're being cognizant and we're reconnecting with nature and, trying our best to reduce our carbon footprint, et cetera, how do we actually measure the impact of our efforts when it just seems so overwhelming?
Well, for that, I would say, I know it sounds crazy. People are going to say she's batshit crazy, but
not at all.
I think that sometimes things don't need to be measured.
That's very
I think that I think for too long we've had criterias and systems where everything had to be measured from school to work to barometers and temperature and everything. Yes. I think that we need to come to a stage where we are so aligned with nature and we're so environmentally intelligent that we don't even need to measure if we're being harmed in it or not.
That is genius. That is genius. Sort of like when things align, there is a dual harmony that you sort of feel each other and are able to sync with each other such that you just know. Almost like on a very, very minor level, waking up without a clock, you're listening to your body and your body says, time to wake up.
Absolutely. Like the do no harm, but extended. We probably knew intuitively that drinking water from a plastic bottle was not good for us. I'm sure we knew intuitively that it wasn't good. I'm sure we do. I'm sure we did. And then we didn't need to have all that data to know. we knew, we had a sense that it wasn't probably that good for us. And now we know that it's not, because of course we measured it. So we do have data, but now at the end of the day, and
now we have to create another product to undo what we created.
Exactly. But going to any beach any day of this year, last year, 5 years ago, we would know that it wasn't good for us because there would be bottles everywhere. Like, did we need that? It's not good for us. It's not good for the soil. It's not good for the sea. It's not good. It's not good, period. Yeah.
In your opinion, I guess we can, we just talked about the sort of bottling industry, but in your opinion, which industries, 2 or 3 industries, could be more proactive and invested in reducing their negative impact on the environment?
Oh my God, I want to say I have a tie between fashion and food.
Yeah. My tie would be fashion and beauty.
Yeah. I mean, I have a big thing about food because food has got it wrong in so many levels. The fact that so many people are starving and that we're throwing, enough food to feed 3 planets. It makes no sense to me at all. It's the overproduction of food. There's the overproduction of fashion, of textile and fashion in the fashion industry.
Yes.
But the overproduction of food feels it's like salt on the wound. Like it's an added,
like the overproduction of processed food or
of everything. That in itself, the overproduction of horrible food for our systems. Think about the money, energy, effort that could be derived from that and used for something else. It's just endless. The food industry, I think, is I would choose that. I know the fashion industry, they're all need to be revamped, but I find it very, very, very uncomfortable and if not infuriating. I'm trying to be careful with my words, but yeah, I just think that the food industry is such a failure on so many levels to all of us, to every part of the ecosystem, from the animals to the humans, because the animals are also being a victim of that. Like the overproduction of meat
Yeah.
Like you used to eat meat once in a while because it was sourced in a specific way. And with now it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not promoting eating, animal products by no means, but I just think that the overproduction of certain products is just unfair, simply unfair.
I know there's data out there somewhere that looks at the impact of the industrialization of food and its impact on environment, human health, weight, mental status. There's got to be data out there somewhere. I believe that there is. I just don't know the data. But now you're going to send me off on another search. But so whether it's the food industry or fashion or beauty, cars, whatever, what do you think is the greatest challenge then to achieving a more sustainably responsible world? What do you think that one major challenge is?
I don't know if it's a challenge. It may be a challenge and a solution at once, because for me, it's less. It's producing less, it's consuming less, it's consuming better. Like we don't need, like, I'm going back to the meat because I know there's been a lot of talks about who's working and the immigrants working in the meat labs. I mean, meat factories, like who needs a meat factory? Like who? Why? Like, I know there's 8 billion people living on Earth, but we don't need to feed to all. Like there's so many principles of eating and we need to feed 8 billion people. I get that. But going back to your question, I think it's really about consuming less, producing less. I think we have too much. I was just speaking at a conference on fashion, and we were reading about there's billions and billions of textile items of fashion products being produced every year, and I think it's like, I don't know, 60 billion or 45 billion not being sold. That goes who knows where. I don't remember the exact data, so don't quote me on that. But the fact that billions of clothing items are being produced and billions are not being sold, there's a question, like, what are you doing? Like, if you know this, year on one, year two, you don't do that. You didn't sell billions of, like, you, obviously, I'm talking about the big guys.
Yeah.
Why are you flooding? Why are you, it's literally flooding with waves of textile that we don't need. We could use for something else. Again, energy, waste. It seems so incredible that we're still talking about this, though. It's kind of crazy because the funny thing about it, because there's a part that's funny, is that in that panel I was speaking with this woman who's an incredible woman, activist and wonderful woman and very inspiring. And we had done a talk, her and I, in 2016, which was almost 10 years ago.
Yes.
Again, going back to the AI and the Age of Empathy article. And it's kind of nice to still be alive and do the same work and compare notes.
Yes.
And we were talking and we were like, wow, like, should we angle this panel about what we were talking about then? And what I realized is that I still believe in the values that I'm trying to promote, because I believe in caring and empathy and environmental intelligence and all of this. But I wanted to be a little bit more assertive because, sometimes you need to be more assertive when the message is still not being clear.
Yes.
And I don't think the message is not clear. I think that I was talking about David and Goliath, like, I'm one person. There's a forest around me because I know there's a lot of other trees like me that are trying to have the same message, different ways of saying the message, but same message. But yes, I think it's still challenging because you still have a huge mammoth in front of you that's still producing, still selling, still not, so it's hard.
It is very hard.
Really hard.
Well, speaking of fashion, are there any fashion brands that you're supporting that are more socially responsible?
I've recently, I've known of them for a long time.
Yes.
And because we featured them in one of our guides, but I recently met the founder of Another Tomorrow.
Oh yes, Another Tomorrow. Yeah.
Vanessa Barboni, and I really loved the brand, and I, it's like the she-mance. We say bromance. I know bro is a big word these days, but yeah, so we had a she-mance. I just really loved connecting with her, and I loved her personality, and she was very soft-spoken and caring, and she, if I had not known that she had a brand, I would have want to buy what she was selling, because she felt so comforting and kind.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what you want to buy, something that's comforting and kind. And so if somebody's leader is representing those values, you definitely want to buy that. So yeah, I would say Another Tomorrow. And then otherwise, really what I do now, first of all, at my age, I know I sound like I'm ancient, but I feel like
but you're not.
But yeah, I turned 50 on January 6th, so it was a big milestone. It's 25 times 2 on 2025, so I like that.
Right. That's right.
25
Very
times
good.
2025.
I love it. You must be into numerology.
Well, not really, but I'm really into astrology these days. Okay. It's been one of my things, but I thought it was like 25 times 2 in 2025. I like that.
I like that.
But yeah, I think these days at my age, I don't really feel like I have to buy anything. I feel like I have everything I need. I just I shop from my own closet, which is something I was saying at this conference. You should shop from your own closet. You don't need new stuff. And I shop a lot. I've always, since I was very young, I remember being 12, asking my older sister to take me to vintage shops and markets.
Yes.
So I always shopped vintage. I wore vintage clothes at my sister's wedding. I love vintage clothing, and I love secondhand. When I want something now that I'm trying to find, I'll buy it secondhand. I will go to one of those resale platforms, and I think they're amazing.
Yes.
And I love, again, that community. Like, I'm buying it from someone else. I hope they had a good story with whatever they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say Another Tomorrow, and then buy secondhand and buy vintage. It's better anyway.
They certainly don't make them like they used to, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now,
when I wear that, I feel good. I'm like, I feel like Audrey Hepburn, which is one of my iconic women that I love so much.
Now, what about beauty brands? Are there any more sustainably minded or conscious beauty brands that you are using right now?
I really like, so I'm a big fan of Yuka, the app that allows you to see. So you know that, obviously, since you're an expert.
I dabble.
Yeah, you dabble. I try to find the most natural products I can.
Yeah.
There's a brand that I like, Anne-Marie Borlind.
Yes, has been around a very long time.
Yeah, I really like her products. This brand. And I try to buy, I looked and looked for, because I'm not a big fan of retinol, but I wanted natural-based retinol, like plant-based retinol. And I found one recently, which was made in France. And I forgot the name. I forgot the name of the brand, but it's very good. And I like Typology, which is started in France. I really like their SPF. And but my big trade secrets that I've used for many years, and I claim, and I'm sure that this is why I feel like I have good skin or better skin,
glowing skin, radiant.
I really believe it's vitamin C powder. That's like my go-to, which I blend with the Anne-Marie Borlind. Voila. So I have the rose wand serum, and I have the orange flower serum. So those are my two staples.
Yes.
And actually, the Anne-Marie Borlind was referred to me by my best friend, whom you also interviewed, Carmelina Bakari.
Yes, she also
has great products too, which I want to mention.
Yes. Yes, exactly. She launched them. I'm so happy for her.
Yes, she's such I would say that she's one of my beauty secrets. She's my best friend. So I think having a great best friend is really helpful too.
Very important. That's definitely good. Yes, that definitely contributes to beauty inside and out, for sure.
Yeah.
Now you travel quite a bit, both for work and for play. And do you have like an in-flight routine or a travel routine? How do you, get your bearings and feel comfortable and feel like you when you're in a place that's not familiar?
Yes. Oh my God, I have a whole routine. I have my Bose headphones,
Yes.
like sound counseling device.
Yeah,
Which
the
is
noise
very
canceling
important for me.
earphones. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And I have playlists of meditation. I'm a big meditator since I was very young. So I have all kinds of meditation playlists. I've discovered one of my favorite singers who's very spiritual, who started creating beautiful, beautiful meditation, very ceremonial, Jhené Aiko.
Hmm.
And I highly, highly, highly recommend one that I mean, I love all of them, but there's one, it's called Alive and Well.
Yes.
And I want to mention her because she's one of the few people that lost her home in LA, and she's not mainstream, but she's an incredible artist. And the fact that she's putting this type of work out there says a lot about her soul. So
Yes, it
I want
does.
to mention her. So these are my things. And then homeopathic. So I had a lot to grieve. I've had quite a bit of loss in the last few years, sadly.
Yes.
Momentous, difficult. It's like climbing a mountain.
Yes.
Grief is a really, really difficult thing. So for anyone listening that's going through grief, I hug you and I send you my love. But I've discovered while I was grieving through this amazing practitioner who does this method called ACMOS. I don't know if it's known in the US, but it's like a quantum medicine. And basically, she measures your body and kind of gives it what your body needs. And so while I was grieving, she gave me quite a bit of homeopathic remedies.
Yeah.
And one of them was for anxiety and stress. And so I have this little routine also when I travel, because it's not, I love flying.
Yes.
I worked in aeronautics. I'm kind of a plane geek, so it's not that, but it's the people, and I'm claustrophobic.
Oh boy.
So if I'm by a window, I'm totally fine. I don't care.
Yes.
I actually enjoy everything in the plane. I feel like I'm the pilot because I love so much everything that has to do with engines and planes. But if the plane is full and it's very I can get very, so this has been really great. I love this homeopathic routine that she's provided me with. And I'd like to thank her too, Helen. But meditation is amazing. I mean, this is a fundamental part of myself. I think that it's definitely something also that makes you beautiful, I think.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. I cannot believe that we are at the final question. It seems as if it's only been 5 minutes. I've been having so much fun and learning a lot from you, Nora. Thank you. But the last question is the signature question of the Forever Fab podcast. It is the Fab Five. So what are your top 5 recommendations for living a beautiful and fabulous and more earth-loving life?
Oh my God, I'll just give you what I do. So definitely meditation.
Okay.
I just mentioned it. So that's my top.
Yes.
Walks in nature.
Yes.
These are they're amazing. But walking in nature, really walking in nature,
not just going out to the grocery store, really walking.
Exactly. Yeah, walking and touch the trees, smell the flowers, look at the bees doing their work, just observe, watch. People would go bird watching, but just watch everything and just soak it all in. Look at the industrious beauty and magnificent intelligence of the earth. I think that will make you think about your own body. And that's fabulously working. And it's so well engineered as well. We have wonderful machines for bodies. And nature is a reflection of that. So I would say walk in nature and thinking about that. So 3, my latest thing, which is very linked to my culture, pomegranates is something I love. I just absolutely love. And I've rediscovered it. And I would say eating pomegranates every day. That's one of my things. And actually,
so that's your version of eat an apple every day.
Yeah, I would say no, pomegranates is the way.
Okay.
There's actually a lot of studies apparently in research.
Oh, yes.
around that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I just love them. I love them, and they make me feel good. And I love the tartness of it. I love
Yeah.
them when they're very sweet or tart. I just love them in every way. So
Yeah.
that's 3.
Okay.
Number 4, flowers. I'm a big flower girl. I love flowers. So one of my favorite things is to have flowers around me. I buy flowers every week. I just, I like to, I mean, if all fails and we still have a planet and I can be a florist, that's what I'll be doing.
I buy flowers
So that
all
would
the
be
time
number
also
4.
for my office. I get it. I appreciate that. Yes. Okay.
And then number 5,
Yes,
without a doubt,
5.
is love. Love,
Aw.
and more love. Love is the everything, all the time perfection of our lives. And I feel very fortunate that I am trying to walk from a place of love in everything that I do. And I think we're all trying to be wealthy in some ways. We talked about this, like the infinity of the grand and infinity of the small. I think if I can leave this embodiment and this incarnation wealthy in love, whatever love it can be, like not necessarily the love I'm getting, but the love I'm giving. I think it's wonderful to give love. And then if it comes back, that's great. But just to be able to walk this earth, I know it sounds very cliche, like I'm in a pageantry, but I really, really believe that. Like, it's just incredible. Like, the love you give is incredibly rewarding, and makes you feel good and makes you feel fabulous. And walking from a place of love, it opens doors to you that you never thought were possible to open. So that would be my last
5.
one.
Well, I love you so
I love
much.
you too.
Thank you for caring, and
Thank you.
For being present today, for your energy and your insight and your intelligence and your love. And thank you for sharing that on the Forever Fab podcast.
Thank you.
Oh, this brings us to our close of this week's episode of the Forever Fab podcast with my lovely, fabulous guest, Nora Gerby. You may follow Nora on social at Who Cares Chronicles, and also at the Queen of Care. That's how we started this podcast, Queen of Care. For more information about Nora and how you can get those cards, I Want a Deck, and how you can care about the environment, please visit the website, theenvironmentalintelligence.com, and also whocareschronicles.com. Thank you, Nora. And thank you, listeners, for listening to this week's Forever Fab podcast episode. As always, until next time, stay beautiful and forever fabulous inside and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madej, MD. Live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.